is well with my soul. The fact that the gentleman who wrote this had just suffered a huge tragedy. He lost 4 adult daughters on a ship accident. His wife survived. And the fact that he could sit down and write this after just what he'd gone through speaks volumes to me. No matter how tough things get, never give up. Never give up on Jesus, because he never gives up on me. And the thing that I struggle with the most, and I've heard this said, is if I had been the only person on this earth, God still would have sent Jesus for me. That totally blows my mind, but if he loves me that much to not give up on me, I'm not giving up on him.
It is good to be with you guys today. So I don't know about you guys, but who's excited about the Olympics coming up? Just a few weeks away. I'm stoked. I love it. I love the Winter Olympics especially. I love the half pipe, snowboarding. I love seeing Shaun White tear up. And what he does is just incredible. It seems like every year there's something new. I have a strange one that I absolutely love. I don't know if you guys know it. It's called curling. Anybody know it? There's just something fascinating about it. I get mesmerized by it. I get lost in it, and it just seems like the simple routine over and over again. But I think they have something. Like, I really want to teach Ezra how to curl. Maybe just to clean up along the way or something along those lines. But he can practice in the kitchen as much as he likes. But what gets us excited about the Olympics? What gets us excited about the Olympics? I think a lot of times we get so excited about the Olympics. I mean, it's a world phenomenon. Why? Because men and women all around the globe are competing for gold, to be the very best, to give it all they got. And it's not something they just like, hey, you know what, I want to be Olympian today. It took a lifetime of dedication to get to this place. It is awesome. It is something that we believe ourselves probably is impractical for us to actually accomplish, maybe impossible for us to accomplish, but we love seeing and are captivated by the people that they take their whole lives and they dedicate it to this lifestyle. And it is a lifestyle. It's not something they just chose. It is incredible. And they achieve feats with their bodies that push the bounds of what we believe is even humanly possible. And case in point with Shaun White. If you guys know about the X Games, Winter X Games from 2012, or I believe 2012, he did his own trick. And he had a perfect score. He already had the gold. He was going to go ahead and go again just for the fun of it. And he did it even better and got a perfect score on his next run. It just amazes me what the human body is capable of. What we don't see, though, in the Olympics, we see the end game. We see what they have accomplished. What we don't see, though, is what kind of was saying here, the sweat, the training that it took, the dedication, the hours, the years, and so much more that they had to do in order to actually become the very best in their sport. It takes having a coach. It takes keeping a job. Guess what? It doesn't pay for itself, especially at first. They're spending many years trying to just make their way, going to competitions that usually cost money, and keeping the dream. If they are not passionate about that sport or event that they are in, they're out. They're out. They have to stay motivated. But what keeps them motivated? It takes what I said first. It takes that coach. It takes a purpose. It takes dedication. It takes that dream. What do I want out of this? What do I want? In a 2016 interview with Usain Bolt, he stated that going to the Olympics to win gold over 4 years was rough. And that's saying something to do. But it was something that he wanted. It was his main goal when he started back in track and field. His main goal. He didn't have 4 main goals. He had one main goal. His main goal was to come back to the Olympics time and time again. I want to be the very best. I want to give it my all. And he gave it his all. He gave it his all. Out of the very best, I mean, he outdid everyone else. They have to prepare for long-term training. If you want to become a future Olympian, I'm going to go ahead and lay it out here for you so you guys can start training. You have to dedicate thousands of hours to this sport. Thousands of hours. I don't know if we even have a hobbies that we spend thousands of hours with. Maybe TV. We'll give that one. But here's a rough example of their training schedule, okay? When they're first introduced to the sport as teens, or as preteens, they have to spend at least 250 hours of training per year in 6 months. After making the junior national team as teens, they have to spend 600 hours per year over 9.5 months. And then after making the Olympics, finally making the Olympic team, after all that hard work, it doesn't get any less. It actually becomes more. In their late teens or 20s, 1,100 hours per year over 11 months. Now, that's just a number. A lot of times we can't even understand that. But to put into perspective, if you have a full-time job, so you're working at least 40 hours a week for 52 weeks in a year, that's 2,080 hours. So they're working more than half of that, more than 20 hours a week is dedicated to just training. That's it, just to train. That's not including the rest that they need, the naps that they're forced to take, the actual jobs that they actually have to keep. All these things that have to go into place. To put that much time into one thing is a lifelong dedication. And here's the thing. They might not even become an Olympian. Isn't that sad? They could put all these hours, this time into it, and not even become an Olympian, not even go to the Olympics. I can't imagine the devastation I would feel just to get to that point and not be able to make it, not qualify for it. And many people, they just quit. They go their own way. But the people that win, the gold are the people that stay, the people that actually move on. They get back up, they try again. Sometimes it takes years to get back to there, but they do it. They don't give up. But imagine if some of these guys did give up. You guys might have heard of some of these names. Carl Lewis, Michael Phelps, Nadia Comaneci, I practiced that one, Comaneci, Usain Bolt, Shaun White, and many more. It just makes me wonder, what happens if we took that dedication, okay, Olympian dedication to our faith? How would our world be? It would be incredible for those who call themselves Jesus followers, okay, to become spiritual Olympians. We can easily see the difference between a weekend warrior at the YMCA and an Olympian. There's a big difference there. I'm not going to take up Usain Bolt in a race. I know I'm going to lose. It would be fun, but I know I'm going to lose. But the same can be said for Christians. There's a major difference with dedicating your life to Jesus and just being a Sunday or a Facebook Christian. There's a big difference there. What would it look like to be a spiritual Olympian? What would the impact be on the world around us? How difficult would it be? How difficult? You guys probably have thought about this yourselves. But if you guys read in Joshua 24, Joshua is reminding the people of all the good he has done for Israel. From Abraham through bringing them out of slavery with the Egyptians to crushing the Egyptians in the Red Sea to giving them land that they never had themselves, and cities that they never built themselves, and vineyards and olive trees that they never planted themselves. This is what Joshua 24 says. He's ending all the good stuff that God did. Starts in verse 11. Then you went across the Jordan River. You came to Jericho. Its people fought against you. So did the Amorites, Perizzites, Canaanites, Hittites, Girgashites, Hivites, and Jebusites. I got them all, okay? But I handed them over to you. I sent hornets ahead of you. Okay, God used hornets, guys. He used hornets. He sent hornets ahead of you. They drove your enemies out. You didn't even have to use your own swords and bows. I did it with insects. So I gave you land that you had never farmed. I gave you cities you had never built, and you are now living in them. And you are eating from fruit and vineyards and olive trees that you did not even plant. It goes on into Judges 2, 7 through 10. The people served the Lord for good reason. He did good for them, right? He gave them a lot of good stuff. They felt good about the God that they served. But for some reason, even along this way, they failed time and time again. They kept serving other gods, of the gods around them. When God wasn't doing something for them, they went their own way. They did something else. Joshua wanted to make a promise for them. He gave them an ultimatum, like, okay, you need to serve God or don't serve God, and make it known. We need to make a choice. The people said, guess what? We want to serve the Lord. We are going to be our own witnesses to this. They put a stone up as an altar, basically, to God, as a reminder that this is what they're dedicating their lives to God. The people served the Lord throughout the lifetime of Joshua and the elders who outlived him, and who had seen all the great things that the Lord had done for Israel. Joshua, son of Nun, and you don't have to have a dad joke for that, the servant of the Lord died at the age of 110. After the whole generation had been gathered to their ancestors, another generation grew up who neither knew the Lord nor what he had done for Israel. I don't know if you guys are thinking, but when I first read this, I'm like, what? You guys, all this good happened to you. All these amazing, glorious things that sometimes we ourselves wish would happen, right? Like God would show me a sign. He showed signs. I mean, he showed a pillar of smoke, a pillar of fire. He crushed. Crushed the Egyptians in the Red Sea. They crossed the Jordan River. All these amazing things. They were given things that they didn't deserve and probably weren't able to do themselves. But he did it anyways. And they, for some reason, didn't pass this information on to the next generation. Why? What happened? What happened? You guys, you were doing so well. Everything seemed like it was going well. You were given everything and more than you actually wanted. You weren't just brought out of slavery. God gave you a city. God gave you land. He gave you food. What happened? Israel served the Lord, and then they failed to pass on the faith and knowledge to the next generation. They neither knew the Lord nor what he had done for Israel. And I believe we can all agree that they dropped the ball, right? They dropped the ball. Because of this, the next generation was lost. They turned from God and did what was evil, okay? It says evil. They worshiped other gods. And because of this turning, God let the evil have them. He let robbers steal everything they had. But he didn't leave them there. Because we serve a good God. Guess what? He brought up another leader, to save them. And he saved them. He told them to turn to God. And guess what they did? No. I mean, we're good now. We're a good place. We like it here. They went back to their old ways again. And guess what happened? God handed them back over to their enemies once again. And then this happened time and time again. Over and over, God bring up a leader to help save them, and he saved them. They were happy. Then they went back to their old ways. God brought up a leader, saved them. They were happy, but then they went back to their old ways. So it was the cycle. They kept choosing their own demise. But our God is good. He never gave up on them. But what happened? Why did the people turn from God? And the question that always comes to my mind is, was it the previous generation's fault? Was it the previous generation's fault? My ultimate answer is yes, okay? Stay with me, though. Why? We'll read from Judges 2:10 again. They didn't know the Lord, okay? That the next generation didn't know the Lord. Now this right here is the individual's choice. I can't choose for my son Ezra for him to serve the Lord. I hope and I can instill that in him, and I can teach him about God, but I can't choose that for him. That is not something I can force him to do. That's his choice, and that was that generation's choice. But listen to this. And what he had done for Israel, what God had done for Israel. Now that was their fault. They didn't know what God had done for Israel. That knowledge, what he brought them through, how he saved them, all the good, all the bad things that he saved them from, they didn't know about this. Whose fault is that? I would say that generation's. Now, that is on them, and there's no explanation why. We don't have an explanation in the Bible about this. But maybe it's just because they became comfortable. They became comfortable. If you recall, he gave them land that they did not earn for themselves. He did that. He gave them cities that they did not build themselves. He gave them vineyards and olive trees that they did not plant themselves. Were they too comfortable? Have we become too comfortable? Are we on the verge of becoming too comfortable? If we are even close to becoming too comfortable, this is, I think, a declaration of what not to do. Don't become too comfortable. Don't become too comfortable. Did you know that God commands us to pass on faith? God commands us to pass on faith. Priests in the Old Testament began at the age of 20. Age of 20. Sounds like almost like college. They actually got to this spot. But they were forced to retire at 50. At 50, they were forced to retire. But it didn't end there. From there till the day they died, they were to train younger men, the younger priests, the next generation. They were supposed to do that. 2 Timothy 2 says this: we are called to take what we have learned and entrust it to reliable men who will be able to teach others. That was what older men were supposed to do, and women for the same. It says in Titus, it says for older women to train the younger. Do you know, we need men and women. We need men and women of all ages in front of the next generation to inspire and to instruct them. We do. They need to be encouraged and mentored. They need the knowledge of what God has done in our lives. The earlier we train, the easier it will be for them to have these habits, build relationships of influence with wiser individuals, and form healthy relationship skills that they can pass on again, because we're not just thinking the next generation. We're thinking the generation after that and the generation after that, and hopefully they are much better than we are today. If we give our all, that hopefully Ezra's generation will be grand, that they will be super fans of God, living and breathing the Word of God with their whole lives, being spiritual Olympians. And they will take that to the next generation and the next generation, and it will be spread like a wildfire. Current research suggests 40 to 50% of kids graduating from a church or a youth group will fail to stick with faith in college. It's a sad statistic, isn't it? From church, graduating from church, 40 to 50% of kids will fail to stick with their faith in college. From that same research, 20% of them, they actually made the choice in high school to drop out of the faith. They made that choice themselves. I'm not going, once I get to college, I'm out. But 80% actually intended to stick with the faith themselves and failed. They intended and failed. Why? More than likely, they did it because they were doing the faith themselves. And you'll find out why. There is some good news, though. Of those that leave the church, somewhere between 30 and 60% return to both the church and their faith in their late 20s. But, and that sounds great, but with all the guilt and consequences from that time of a poor decision making. When asked from these college students, when asked what would you say being a Christian is all about, answers varied, with many being doing good, loving others, and following Jesus. 1/3 of them, of these college students, didn't even mention Jesus. 35% didn't even mention God or Jesus. And according to the Search Institute's nationwide study of 11,000 teenagers from 561 congregations, so it's a huge, and across 6 denominations, okay? 12% of youth have a regular dialogue. 12% have a regular dialogue with their mom on life or faith questions, faith issues. That is 1 in 8. 12% have a regular dialogue with their mom on faith or life issues. You might think it's better with dads. It's actually worse. It's 1 in 20. 1 in 20, 5%. And that's in the church, guys. This is something else. And only 9% of teenagers engage in regular Bible reading and devotions with their families. So not even 1 in 10 kids actually look at Scripture with their parents. With their parents. And that is in the church. That's in the church. But we can just forget those stats, okay? You're like, okay, that doesn't apply to me. Ask yourself this question. Have I talked to my child, no matter how old they are, about a life issue, how are things in life going, or faith? How is your faith? Have you asked those questions? Are you having a regular scripture time with your family where you're going into the Word? Are you doing these things? The nice thing is, right now, you have a chance. We have a chance to change that. We have a chance to actually come up with a plan. If you know anything about Olympics, they have to have a plan. They have to have a strategy. If you don't have a strategy, it's easy to get off track. If you go to the gym, you know if you do not have a plan, if I feel like going to the gym after work, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You have to have a plan. You have to have something in place. I'm going to do this 3 times a week, 4 times a week. This is my goal. What is your main goal? We need to ask ourselves that. What is our main goal? Is it to enjoy life? I would like that. Or is it something more important? I hope I enjoy life, but life has its ups and downs, no matter what you do about it. I want to give God my all. I want to be a Jesus Olympian. But here are 3 ways that we can change things. I want you guys to give you these. Be a coach, okay? Be a coach. Pass your faith on your faith story. Train those younger than you, encourage them, motivate them, pray for them, correct them, but only in love. If you are mentoring, help to push them past their perceived limits. Jesus can do that whether they believe so or not. And he's probably, if you have that faith story, you know he's done that with you. Tell them the good, the bad, and the wilderness experiences. And I'll explain wilderness in a moment. The good. What has God done good in your life? Don't be the Israelites here, okay? Pass on the good that God did. Pass on the bad. Don't forget to pass on the bad. We all have come through bad situations. We all have failed at times. And guess what? Teens, kids, they're going to fail today, okay? They're going to fail tomorrow and next week and the next year over and over again, just like we do. They need to know the bad. How did you get through this? How did you cling to Jesus? How did you take those bad choices, make a better choice, and change your ways? How did that happen? The wilderness. Sometimes we feel dry, right? We feel alone. We feel unhappy, not motivated. The thing is, faith isn't a feeling. Faith isn't a feeling. Just like your best relationships, whether it's a significant other or your best friend, love is not just a feeling. It goes beyond a feeling. It's not even, you don't lose that love when somebody hurts you. You don't lose that love when you're having a bad day or had an argument. Love is a commitment. Love is caring about the person whether they make a mistake or not. Same thing with faith. Faith is not just a feeling. It's something that we cling to because guess what? God has all the answers. He knows what he's doing. Whether we think so or not, we know that we can come back to him. His word brings truth and hope into our lives. It's critical moments like these where we need to cling to Jesus, to even be hungry for him when we're in the desert, to pray, to listen in solitude, to worship, to do good works, to not, here's the kicker, don't get lazy during this time either. When we're at Coach, we go through wilderness times as well, where we're dry, where we don't feel good. But it's easy to get lazy. Don't get lazy. The temptation is to get lazy, but we will backslide. We'll become overwhelmed by the evil one very easily. It's easy to give up when you're not feeling good. But if you have those motivating you, it pushes you forward. It pushes you forward. Share these times with those younger than you and help them to find ways to cling to Christ during this time and not forsake the coming of church. Why? Because you are not alone. You are not alone. Not only does God deserve the glory and deserve our worship for how good he is, and that's why we're here at church today, to bring him glory, not just to hear some guy who fails on a regular basis, but is trying to and is speaking right now, but to listen to God, to worship a God that brings us hope and joy, that has the answers even when we don't, that sees the bigger picture. And that's what our coach does. He sees the bigger picture. He knows that we can do it even when we believe we can't. We have to be that to the younger generation. Be a fan. Pass on God's grandeur. Be a fan of God. Be a fan of the race, because this life is a race. Be a fan of living a Jesus-filled life. Be a fan of athletes, your fellow athletes, and the next athletes after them. Be a fan. Be a team player. The Israelites forgot what God did and the mighty things he did for them, the enemies he delivered them from, and the enemies he conquered ahead of them with hornets, guys, okay? Wear your testimony every day. You guys, if you remember when you had that faith, when those crazy things happened that only God could do, where you were saved, where God changed your life, where he brought you out of a situation, where he gave you a house, brought your family brought amends to each other, where you found forgiveness where you didn't believe there was any. Have those stories on your sleeve. Be ready to share them to the next person whenever you have a chance. Be ready to share them. Psalm 78:4 says this, "We will not hide them from our children, but tell them to the coming generation the glorious deeds of God, our Lord, and his might and the wonders that he has done." They are excited to share these stories. Are you excited to share these stories? Be a fan. Be a fan. If you have a team, okay, I want that you are excited about talking about at work or at home or whatnot. I want you to be more so of a Jesus fan than any team that you are a fan of. Make sure people hear more about Jesus than they do your NFL, your college team, or anything like that. The third one is be an athlete. Pass on your example. Train, set goals, go for the gold, don't give up, be a team player, and remember you are not alone. You're not alone. We have a team. And it's not just Team USA, okay? It is Team Christ, Team Jesus Christ. Jesus doesn't want us to just be a fan. That's fun and all. It's fun being a fan. He doesn't want that just for you. He wants you to get in the game. He wants you to experience the joys, the highs, the lows, but to cling to him because he will give you sustenance. He will give you life. He will bring you joy. He will push you to places where you never thought you could go. And the nice thing is he knows our potential, not just ours, but our kids, our babies, our teenagers, those younger than us, those all around us. And the greatest gift that you can give your children is to let them see you struggle and wrestle with how you live a lifetime of trust with God. That is how they can see it, is seeing you struggle and wrestle, but being open with dialogue, how you are being affected by this, but how they can learn from it as well. Let them learn your strategies. Let them find their own strategies. Help them to fail less or be prepared for failure. Sociologist Dr. Christian Smith says this: the most important social influence in shaping young people's religious lives is the religious life modeled and taught to them by their parents. Parents are the biggest influence in a child's life. If you are a parent, you have so much responsibility under you, it can seem overwhelming. Sometimes you just want to give up, or you will just wait to child number 2 to get it right? Don't give up. We all fail. We all fail. The thing about failure, it will happen whether you like it or not. But failure is something that we need to get comfortable with, because our kids will fail. The teens will fail. Those around us will fail. Here's something to know. Those who are most successful fail the most. Why? Because they try. Because they try. Because they try. I was talking about the X Games with Shaun White. He won the gold. He basically won 2 golds from doing a perfect score the next run. It is incredible to see this man. He went to the X Games after an ankle injury. He didn't think he actually was going to make it. A lot of times, I can tell you, I am pathetic when it comes to being sick or injured. I don't want to get out of bed, really. But he didn't just, he got better as quickly as he could, and he tried. And guess what? He did something nobody else could do. He got a perfect score on this half pipe. That's the what we could miss out on. We can miss out on that gold if we give up. If we say, okay, today is too much. I'm done right here. This is the line. Don't let today be that line. Have a coach. Have somebody push you beyond what you think you're capable of. As parents, we have two jobs: to help kids learn to trust God and to create a safe environment where we can model unconditional, non-judgmental, and ever-embracing love where nothing can jeopardize or lessen that love. Nothing at all. We also, as athletes, we need to trust God, who is our ultimate coach, and not just obey him, okay? This is a relationship, okay? A relationship is different than just obeying. There is a culture Christian and a personal relationship. A cultural Christian is probably the same thing with obeying God. When things are good, it's easy to do. When the Israelites were given things, when they were given these cities and vineyards and olive trees and a land, oh yeah, of course. I mean, you just, fought for us, and yeah, of course we'll serve you. Don't just serve God when he gives you things. Serve him when you're dry, when you're upset. And you'll be surprised what will happen, the impact that will have on your life. And set the standard for attending church with your kids, grandkids, nieces, and nephews, or those looking up to you. So many of Christians are not even in the race. And why? The reason is, it is long, it's arduous, there is a fear of failure. But we have to practice before we even get good. We have to continue to train no matter what. Maybe today you're thinking, I will leave passing on the faith to the professionals. Or are telling yourself, I'm not good enough. Well, Jesus tells you you are good enough with him, okay? If you have a relationship with Jesus Christ, you can start modeling Jesus to your kids today, okay? It doesn't take reading through the whole Bible to start. That's part of the process. That's part of the relationship. You get to know Jesus through our personal relationship, through communicating through this love letter with him. But make sure you ask questions, ask for forgiveness, and learn what didn't work when you failed, and share with that person that you failed to, how you're going to change the next time. My question to you guys before we close up is, what is our legacy as a church going to be? What is our legacy going to be as a church? What is your legacy as an individual going to be? Is it going to be the number of likes on social media? Always having the newest electronic? How many hours you put into your job? Are your kids going to remember that? How clean your house is? How much money you make? Celebration Sundays this year will be a family-friendly services. We're going to try something different. We're going to be intentional with our time together. Kids 1st through 6th grade will actually be in here this year. And I want us as adults, whether you have kids or not, I want you guys to stand with me in this way. When kids come in here, be an example. Say hello. Give them your seat. We have an opportunity to serve those younger than us. We're going to end in worship right here. And I'm asking you guys to listen to God in this moment, where he may be calling you. Try something out. Maybe it's volunteering at the local food shelter. Maybe it is being at the Baker Youth Club. Maybe it's serving here in the nursery, kids zone, or a youth group. I want you guys to think about it, but if you guys have a communication card in front of you, if you feel interested in serving or just want to kind of talk to somebody about the possibility, I'd love you to fill out a communication card with your name, what you're interested in, and your number. And there will be a bucket up here after our song, and you guys can turn that in after service. Thanks, guys.